It all started with Tony Blair. I was upstairs in a room in Weymouth Library with my caseworker, with a constituent. It was the normal Friday evening MP's, Member of Parliament constituency surgery, when my phone rang. I looked at the phone, I looked at my constituent. I apologised. I took the call. It was the Prime Minister. Hi, Tony. Jim, you're doing a great job as the Environment Minister, but I'm going to have to move you. I want you to be the Schools Minister. Okay. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, bye. Constituent says, good news? I say, yeah, I'm now the Schools Minister. He says, are you a teacher? I said, no. Do you know anything about schools? Well, I went to school, and I'm a parent. Now, many of you will be parents. And don't you love that moment at the end of the day when it's bedtime, and you're sat with them on the bed, and they're cuddling up close, and you're reading them the big picture book. We're going on a bear hunt. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You've got to go through it, swish, swash, swish. And they're looking at you. And they're really engaged, and the light's on in their eyes. And ever since I took the call from Tony, I've visited so many schools. And when I see the light on in the children's eyes, I know I've got a great teacher. But too often, great teachers are constrained by the classroom. Now, 3 years ago, I was preparing to make a speech in the House of Lords. So I was in my office with the oak panelling and the red leather and all the bling of the Palace of Westminster. And I made a call to Bill Donahue, at the time was the managing director at TES. TES have this huge platform for teachers to share learning resources with each other. And I said to Bill, who is your most downloaded teacher? And he said, well, we've decided we're going to recognize our resource contributor of the year with an award. So I asked the people to find out who that person was. They gave me a name of a teacher working in a school in a town called St David's in southwest Wales in Pembrokeshire. So I thought I'd ring her up. So Bill rings up the school office. Woman answers the phone, and Bill says, hello, I'd like to speak to your teacher, Bev Evans. And she says, we don't have a teacher called Bev Evans. And then she says, but we do have a learning support assistant called Bev Evans. Do you want to speak to her? And Bill says, sure. And this is Bev's story. So Bev, mother of 3, her youngest has cerebral palsy, severe learning difficulties, and she's working as a community artist in St David's, and then she gets a job as a school dinner lady. And the head teacher at the primary school, elementary school, wants the school to be fully inclusive and is admitting a young child with the same sorts of severe learning difficulties as Bev's child. So persuades Bev to work as the child's learning support assistant. And every day, Bev would come home from work, and once she'd got the family all sorted, put the children to bed and so on, she would make these wonderful resources so that this child could be fully included in the whole curriculum. So it would be things like maths through the hungry caterpillar, or facial expressions and the words next to them in a PowerPoint. And these wonderful resources, she had teachers in her school wanting to borrow them, and then teachers in neighboring schools wanted to borrow them, and then teachers in the whole area wanted to borrow them, and in the end, it became bothersome, and so she put them on a website. Now, at the point at which Bill spoke to her, she had uploaded about 500 resources. They had been downloaded in over 100 countries, over 1 million times. 18 months ago, I woke up to the very sad news that Bev had died. This wasn't a surprise. She and I were colleagues, and she was sharing her illness with her typical generosity, along with her thoughts on the Welsh rugby team. She'd be loving the Rugby World Cup right now, on Facebook. And At the time that she died, those numbers had increased. So by then, over 200 countries of the world were enjoying her resources with over 4.5 million downloads. Now, I checked those figures again last week. Bev's legacy is that now 750,000 teachers in pretty much every country in the world are consuming her resources, and those downloads are over 7.5 million now, which shows that the legacy of a great teacher lives on and on. It shows that prior qualification is not as meaningful as how much your peers value you, but it also shows you that technology is breaking down the walls of the classroom. Now, as well as all the teachers who are now sharing stuff with each other on all these different platforms, I've become really interested in the way that teachers not only connect with each other, but connect with learners over video conference. And rather than me try and tell you about that, I've brought along a real expert, and please welcome Mina Patel.
I'm going to tell you all a story about when I went into work last Friday. I work in the London Borough of Redbridge, in northeast London. I work at Wanstead Community House. As I walk through the front doors of Wanstead Community House, there's a group of elderly ladies, and they're doing a flower arranging course. I can smell those English roses. They smell amazing. I walk past, and I walk up the stairs. These stairs creak. This is an old listed building, built in the early 1800s. And as I get to the top of the landing, I can hear children's voices coming from one of my classrooms. I'm going to open the door for you, so I'm holding the handle. I'm going to take you all inside. But I need to warn you all right now, my classroom is no ordinary classroom. As I step inside, the first thing I see are the green flashing lights on the router. A router that's taking a 2 meg uncontended line via Ethernet cable directly to the back of a codec that sits on the teacher's desk. And as I look around, I don't see 30 desks, 30 chairs. There's no teacher at the front with an interactive whiteboard and a projector. But who is there? Is my teacher, Maria. And Maria's sitting in front of a HD camera that's mounted on top of a flat panel screen. And that camera's linking directly into the back of that codec. And I can see Maria's class, all 30 of them. They're sitting 5,000 miles away in Uruguay. Maria is teaching them the colors in English. I can see this because she's got a PowerPoint on her laptop, and she's sharing this with them. And then she swaps over and plays a video clip about the rainbow, so they're singing a song together. Maria looks over at me and winks, so I wink back at her. And then I look behind Maria. And as there is in all my classrooms, there's a large whiteboard. And proudly pinned to that whiteboard is a 4-meter Union Jack flag. And next to our British flag is the Uruguayan flag. Next to that, my company logo, and the British Council logo, my partners, with Plan Sabel, the Uruguayan government, and the words, Next Generation Teaching and Learning. And I look over at Maria, and I think, she is one of our next generation of teachers. And as I look over at Maria, there's a roar of laughter coming from the speakers. The children are laughing and shouting the color, red, red. And I look over at Maria, and Maria has leant into the camera and painted bright red lipstick on. And she looks over at me and winks again with a big red lip. So I smile at her, and then I walk out of the classroom. And as I walk out of the classroom, I walk down the corridor and into one of my second classrooms. And I find my teacher, Raina, in there. And Raina has a visualizer that's connected into the back of the video conferencing hardware. She's taken a copy of the London Metro newspaper, and she's put it underneath the visualizer. And as I walk in, she's speaking in Spanish with the children, talking about what's been in the news in London. And then she zooms in on the date as it's printed on the top of the newspaper. And she asks the children to listen, repeat after me. Friday, 18th September 2015. Repeat. I hear the children's voices come across the Atlantic. They pronounce the words in the similar English accent to Raina's. Raina grabs the remote, and she can control the far-end camera in the school in Salto in Uruguay. So she's zooming in and then speaking to the classroom teacher and offering her support on teaching her the lessons that she has to teach on her own. And then Raina turns around and looks at me and gives me a thumbs up. So I give her a thumbs up back. And then just as I walk out and the door's about to close, I catch a glimpse of the red, white, and blue of our British flag, and the door closes. And then I walk out and I walk back down the corridor. And as I walk down the corridor, my phone pings. It's Lord Jim Knight. Did I say Lord Jim? It's Lord Jim. Lord Jim Knight. Mina, fantastic presenting with you in Brazil. And it's been great that the project's now going to be extended and you are going to be teaching children in Sao Paulo. Woohoo! So I get to the bottom of the stairs reading that text message and I smile. And I walk past the ladies doing the flower arranging. Those roses smell amazing. I walk outside and I stand outside Wanstead House. And I think back 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I was standing in Oaks Park High School. I was standing with their A-level physics students. We were looking up at a video conference that we'd just connected to a communications officer. He was sitting in a red cabin on some rocks surrounded by an ocean. But this was not just any ocean or any rock. This was the Antarctic. Jeff Hawthorne, the assistant head teacher of Oaks Park High School, he came up to me at the end of the session and he said to me, Mina, this is how our students want to learn. This is what we want. A week later, my former CEO pulls me into his office. I remember the glass windows as they surrounded me. He sat me down. He looked me in the eye. He said, Mina, give up on video conferencing. This technology, it has no future in education. Walk away. My head dropped to the floor. I remember the train journey home. I remember the tears falling down my cheeks. I remember by the time I arrived at Waterloo Station, I'd wiped them away. That was 3 years ago. But now, I'm on my way to Manford Primary School in Redbridge. And as I arrive at Manford Primary School, I can see the year one children, so they're 5, 6-year-olds, and they're sitting in rows looking up at the screen. Something's about to happen. And the year one teacher smiles as I walk in, and Ray, the technician's there. And we look up at the screen, and there, in the middle of nowhere, and it was the middle of nowhere, in the dark, because it was nighttime in Australia, appears James McDermott. G'day, children, he says. And James is standing on the eastern coast of Australia, in the Australian bush. He's standing amongst a species of bat, an almost endangered species of bat called the flying fox. We hear the flying fox. Ee, ee. And the children and I look at each other astonished. And their eyes wide open, and the teacher's eyes even wider. And at the end of that half-an-hour session, one of the little boys came up to me, and only a 5-year-old, came up to me and said to me, Mina, we learned so much about bats. James answered all our questions straight away. And one of the little girls, she came up to me, and she said, Mina, we can learn about anything from anyone, from anywhere this way. So I walk out of Manford Primary School, and I'm smiling. And then my phone, it pings again. It's Warren Kidd, senior lecturer at the University of East London. Mina, looking forward to putting the core unit together to train all 300 masters and postgraduate trainee teachers at UEL so that they can teach via video conference and receive lessons via video conference. I replied back to Warren, I hope you realize this is a world first.